happy that you can link up with us again. Today on Talk Point, our focus will be on ensuring peace and tranquility for development. My name is Omololu Rosanwo. I have two gentlemen that will be discussing that with me. To my immediate right, I have Oluyomi Akinshola. He is a youth development advocate and also an entrepreneur. Yomi, nice having you on Talk Point.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I guess it's your first time coming on Talk Point.
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice to have you.
My pleasure, sir.
Yes, to my extreme right, I have somebody that's also familiar with Talk Point and also the station. I have Okpe Taiwo, is an entrepreneur and also a social affairs commentator. Okpe, how are you doing?
Good to be here again.
Yes, nice having you.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, let's look at issues of peace. There cannot be peace when the society is at war. There cannot be peace when the leaders are not doing the right thing. There cannot be peace when the followers are equally not doing the right thing. Now, it's a gamut of a whole lot of things put together. Your responsibility, my responsibility to ensure that things get better. Now, when we say we want peace in the country, what does that connote and how do we get that? Let me start with you, Yomi.
Thank you very much. We have to understand that it's when you have a peaceful environment that you can actually dream. You can't have aspirations if where you're thinking about is first of all survival. So, but when you know that you are in an environment that your safety, your security is guaranteed, you cannot begin to have dreams. I want to be a doctor. I want to be the first astronaut. I want to be a president. I want to be a governor. I want to be an engineer. So all of these things can only come to play in an environment where there's a high level of stability, where you know that you wake up in the morning, you can go to get knowledge, wherever you want to, you're working, your source of your income is guaranteed. You wake up in the morning, you know that you can get money to feed as a result of the job that you're doing that is making you earn some funds and all that. So if these things are missing, you cannot dream. Everything is stalled. So once there is upheaval, once there is instability, once there is an environment that is filled with so much violence, be rest assured that dreams are suspended. The first thing that comes to your mind is self-preservation. And now it takes us back to the state of nature, as defined by Thomas Hobbes, the Hobbesian state, which is solitary, is brutish, is short, and then where might means right.
Okay. Yes, we're going to come to that. Those are scholarly views. We're still coming to that. Let me quickly ask Okwe, what's your own take when we say we want peace and we want development in a society?
All right. So when we talk about peace and development in a society, for me, there are two legs of a particular human being in a society. So on one hand, talking about peace. On another one, we talk about development. Now, you cannot have development when there is no peace, or you cannot have a smooth development when there is no peace. Now, how can you achieve even development through peace? That means for you to have the real development in 21st century, you must look at the angle of peace. Now, when we talk about peace, what do we even mean by peace? We are talking about having Nigeria as a country, more than 230 million people, all right? So we are talking about having more than 500 languages, more than 500 ethnic groups. So what does that mean? There will be conflict. Different language, different culture, different community, different background in one nation. So that means that by default setting, like we say in ICT world, by default setting, there will be what? Conflict. So that means there can't be peace when there's no conflict. So,
but when you're defining conflict now in these terms, you're relating it to the ICT world, but because there are competing needs at that particular period, and the best of it will come out victorious.
Absolutely.
But in this kind of a society, we're looking at not having chaos so that we can have development. if you say that there must be chaos before development, what are you trying to say? Because it is when we have development, there may be agitations here and there, but it is when we have peace or a peaceful atmosphere that we can think of development. I need you to
Now,
expatiate.
in a development world, we must understand that before you have success, there must be a failure. What defines success is the what? The evidence of failure. When there's no failure, there's no success. So
Are you saying people will learn from their failure, which now brings in
from
success?
there, success. So invariably, when you talk about peace, for you to have peace, something must be going on the ground that is bringing some form of conflict. Now, when we talk about conflict, don't forget, conflict is actually different from chaos. Conflict does not or should not necessarily lead to a crisis or a chaos. It might be a fundamental conflict. It might be an economic conflict. So when there is economic conflict, in the process of resolving such economic conflict, you are going towards what? Peace. And when you're going towards that peace, what are the indices of that peace? Even development in the economy.
Okay.
So you can see where they come together at a particular point. So what I'm trying to say at this point is that for Nigeria as an economy, having some form of conflict within the system is not out of place.
Okay.
So whoever is agitated or is about to be agitated based on individual or community conflicts does not understand the meaning of economy. Because for you to have even development in an economy where you have more than 500 languages, there must be a conflict.
Okay.
Because conflict means authoritative what? Allocation of value. So in the process of allocating those value, I'm the first person. Why are you giving him the first? Why don't you give me this particular AI first before you give him fintech, before you give him agriculture? Why don't you give me real estate? Why don't you give me some form of what? Some form of relaxation center before you allocate, what do you call it? Agric space to him. Why must you give him agric space plus fintech at the same time? Okay. For my own region, I need agric. I also need fintech. Why don't you satisfy me first? So you can see in all of those spaces, there are conflicts within a process, but not a chaos.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I actually like that explanation so that we'll get a clearer picture of what we're talking about so that we won't say chaos is accepted, but conflict, there may be conflict.
There may be conflict.
Just to buttress your point, the mouth and the tongue
Absolutely.
will always have differences when it comes to, yes, they will always still fight and they settle it.
They settle and the
afterwards.
process continues.
Yes, yes. Now, let's relate some of these things to societal developments. Now, Yomi, I need to take you up on the postulation you made earlier. Now, if you're looking at that, are you saying that a society that desires development must have some basic level of rules and regulations?
Well, one of the things that rules and regulations does is to bring orderliness. Imagine there's this popular fella song, Ojo Elegba, and in that was talking about Ojo Elegba, motor is coming from the right, motor from the left, and before
East,
you know
west,
and
somebody is at the center, the policeman is in the center.
And there's confusion
everywhere.
and confusion and all of these things. Now, now imagine if there's no last man standing to ensure that there is orderly procession for motorists. Imagine the traffic lights is there, but the traffic light is putting on green for all the people from different directions. Automatically, it will lead to chaos.
Meanwhile, it is giving them green.
It's giving them green.
And they will follow that green.
That green.
And
all of those things. And then before you know it, everybody is in trouble. Now, that is where you have rules and regulations to ensure that there is orderliness within a polity, a community, a group. And once you have orderliness, what that happens is that, okay, we know that, okay, this is already working. Before you know it, you can build on things. And that's where you can begin to talk about development in the real sense of it. One of the parameters or indices of a developed society is law and order. One of the parameters. And one of the things that the United Nations Convention gives opportunity it is that every human being on earth has fundamental human rights. It's also extend to the extent that, look, for us not to have conflicts, like there always a conflict, like my brother has already, explained. For those conflicts not to lead to chaos or anarchy, he now talks about where my own right stops, that's when his right begins. So it means that there are rights, there are responsibilities, so that the community will coexist. Like he earlier said, 500 languages, 200 million people. How do you cope? You know, some people that have multiple wives. You know, House of Commotion, Fuji House of Commotion, I used to watch some years ago. You know how it was comedic. But that was the reality, that's the reality of some people. So you now expand it on a larger scale of either a state or a country, like as heterogeneous as Nigeria is. So now you now understand that there is an absolute need that when you are exhibiting your rights, a commensurate responsibility is required of you. For every right, there's a responsibility. If you can exhibit your rights to exist within this community, there are responsibilities that the Constitution, the United Nations Charter of 1945 expects of you. So law and order, they go in pari passu. They are part of the indices that would use to gauge a developed society. Now, a lot of people know, let me use Lagos as an example. Some years back, before last month came, the people really used to mess up on the roads. But they got to a point that, last month we catch you. So it began to ring in some people's head that you cannot pass one way. You cannot be reversing on the highway. You should use your seat belt, rules, regulations. Your rights to the road is guaranteed. Last part did not say
Once
you should not use
conform.
Conform to the rules and regulations. Why? These are the things that tells us that a people are developing, a people are progressing. The population of Lagos 20 years ago is not what we have today. It has increased. At least in 2012, United Nations Development Report states that every 1 hour, that's 2012, that every 1 hour, 50 people enter Lagos that are not living. So they are coming.
And it's still happening.
They are coming
because,
to live here.
Yeah, it's still happening because the figure that we have now says Lagos is now a smart city.
It is.
And it is 21 million people above, and it's still counting.
And it's clear that one of the things that Lagos is, you can always pride in Lagos is that you have a people that are always, they dream. An average Lagosian dreams of a better tomorrow. So he stands up, he's going, apart from the leadership, that is clear that the leadership is thinking. It's clear that Lagos State leadership over the years have had thinkers.
Just like Chairman Mao, somebody started it.
Yes,
and
someone else
building up.
is building up.
Yes.
So and that's how it has to be. But you know, something must be present. The presence of law and order.
Okay, let me take you on some issues. Just like we have law and order, we also have rights. I have the right to say one or two things within the ambit of the law. I have the right to mix with people within the ambit of the law. I have the right to say, look, government, provide me certain things in line with the Constitution. When we say Constitution, I mean 1999 Constitution. You understand? Now, in situations where people go out of law or not wanting to be within the ambit of the law, wanting to take laws into their hands. Let's take, for instance, now, processions. I don't like what you're doing, or I don't like what some of the things that the government is giving to me, and I feel I should tell the government. The right to tell government, this is what I expect from you.
Yes.
Can I do that without necessarily destroying things, without necessarily inciting people? You know, Okwe?
All right, that's a fantastic question coming at the right time for Nigeria as a nation and as a economy. Now, one thing we must understand, when we talk about human being, human being, we are very peculiar, especially Nigerians. We are very peculiar, but very fantastic people. Do you know why? Because an average human being is said to be, by default setting, I mean default, when you see a human being, it's not meant to be responsible. Number one. Number two, it's not meant to follow order. Number three, it's not meant to do what? To be understanding in nature. Because he wants it done now. But now coming under the ambience of law, you now understand that whatever I am doing in my space as a person will also affect my neighbor. For instance, whatever you are doing at Ikorodu, let's take waste, for instance. As very recently, we saw the flooding in Lagos, all right? So, I had some people that came across me and I said, oh, young man, so who should we blame for all of this flood and areas? I said, I know what you're expecting me because of the nature of man, that I should blame the government. I said, this time around, I am blaming my neighbors and my friends within the state. And they were shocked. They say, why? I said, whatever you do on waste at Ikorodu will affect that young man at Lekki Phase 1. Do you know why? When I wake up at Ikorodu every morning, there's rain. I refuse to follow the law to put my waste out for the lawman. That's number one. I refuse to pay my lawman fee. You can see what is happening already. Number three, I take that waste, put it inside the drainage. Do you know what is happening? That particular drainage will channel my waste into the bigger canal. That canal will channel that same waste straight from Ikodu down to Lekki, from Lekki to Ekpe. So you can see my action.
Irresponsible action.
My irresponsible action. You can see what is the ripple effect of my action in my own space. So what does that mean? An average Nigerian has not come to understand that you are a leader in your own space. And whatever you do, you must be ready, number one, to accept the outcome of your action. Not necessarily blaming the third party. Because who is that third party we're talking about this time around? The government. And like in my own way of putting it out there, there's no government anywhere. I am the government. You are the government. The viewers at home watching us, they are the government. Because the government will not fall from heaven. The government is a what? Is an effect. It's coming from the society.
Yes.
So for me to understand that peace is unavoidable. I need peace. But in as much as I need peace, I shouldn't be expecting the third party to give me the peace I need. I must walk and act the way I want my neighbor to act. So, following peace and also living peaceful community and also expecting peace from the government starts with me.
Okay, let me talk to Yomi. Rising from what he is just said, let's look at how we can bring development also from the grassroots, looking at the judgment that now says local governments will now collect their allocation direct from the federal purse. Now, this is something that is mind-boggling. To some, it is good. To some, it is not good. To some, there will be conflict between the governors and the chairman. To some, the chairman will be bigger than, Now, but when you look at that, is it the right step? If it's the right step, how can we latch on this to bring better development at the grassroots?
Okay, I've had some of my lecturers come. I've seen some written piece as regards not being in support of that landmark judgment by the Supreme Court. But I choose to go with that judgment. And my reasons are clear. Most of the roads that destroy our cars, the shocks which are the
brake
shafts,
pads,
the
the
brake
brake
pads.
pads, yeah, those are the things.
Most of those roads, they are local government roads.
So they are trunk C roads.
They are trunk C roads. So it's very important for us to make them understand that when you really get to feel the essence of leadership is through the empowering of the local governments, much more than they have been. Not just in payment of salaries. The ways he spoke about, local government do it. The inner roads, the health centers. I had my two boys in a primary health center in Lagos. They were free. My sons have never been admitted in a hospital since they were born. That is from a PHC. So that's why I tell you that what the present president, he has shown you his direction, that this is where he's going, and he really wants to ensure that people at the lowest level, feel what it means to be properly governed, adequately governed. So for me, it's very important that as this judgment has been given, all of us go back to understand who is my local government chairman. So, we have been shouting, everybody has been shouting, hey, the president has done nothing, Tinubu has done nothing. But remember, they have released so much funds. They've released so much rights to all the states.
The states, the governors have enough money.
Do you know that I'm hearing things like they have not heard, so I've not seen anybody that said, I got the rice. But it was released. So the president is smart enough to say, okay, there's no problem. The bottlenecks, leadership now. The bottlenecks, I'm going to bypass it. I'm going to make sure that the people feel the impact.
Get to the grassroots.
Get to the grassroots.
So, and the chairmen are closer to the grassroots.
Of course.
So if they will now be held responsible,
Yes,
if there is no feeling
of yes, now we can ask you that 30 million came into the coffers. The federal government released it, the president has released it, and they published it. All of us read it. Oh yeah, where is it? Don't forget, local government chairmen don't have immunity.
So they can be picked
easily.
Good. As we round up.
All right, talking about the local government autonomy, I have been, since 2005, I've been part of people championing that cause in terms of having financial autonomy for the local government in the 774 area in Nigeria. And coming to have it shows that there's going to be more of local robust development. So in talking about peace, so local government will be one of the highest and first set of people to what? To champion this peace we are looking for. Because the kind of peace we are talking about, when we talk about peace in Nigeria, the first person they look at is presidency. But with this LG autonomy now, it's no more presidency now. It's that young man that is my counselor. Is the first point of contact.
That's the legislator at the grassroots level.
Legislator at the grassroots. And the chairman.
And they will have supervisors.
And they have the supervisor. So all I need to do is I don't need to take a fear anymore. I just open my door and enter the next street and say, young man, what happened to the next street? When are you going to fix it? The drainage at the next street, what's going to happen to it in the next budget coming by September? So you can see that the councillors have nowhere to hide anymore. The local government chairman, nowhere to hide anymore.
Except that they do what is right.
What is right.
Yes, gentlemen, I'm afraid time is not on our side again. I want to thank you so much, Oluyome Akinshola, for being part of Talk Point on Lagos Television.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I also want to thank you, Okpebholo Taiwo, for being part of Talk Point.
Always excited being here.
Yes, we've been discussing ensuring peace and tranquility in the development of any society. And Nigeria has been a case study. And of course, we know that development can only come where there is peace and when there is commitment, patriotism from everybody. On that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 are still the lines, so let's call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. I'll see you some other time. My name is Omololu Rosso. Bye for now.